Point number 12.
So, Your Worship,
Chief Executive Officer's report.
a bit of a tongue tie.
Yeah.
I've got very little to add to the report. I guess the only thing that I would point out is that you'll note through the performance report that a lot of categories are flicked into either an orange or a red status compared to last month and previous months. Primarily that's because of the time of the year, the financial year that we're in. We're getting very close to the end of that financial year. So projects which officers previously thought might have been able to scrape in have clearly not been able to. And most of those, when you look at the individual circumstances, you will be aware of all of those, in fact. So examples like the Waitanui water treatment, which we've been talking about for some time, and you've got deliberations coming up. And those other ones which are identified on page 12/1, which you should be aware of, those individuals. So that's the only thing I'd point out to you out of the report. Other than that, we've got the officers in the room who can answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Mr. Chairman, just 12/3, and I'm sorry,
Councillor Boddy.
Mr. Green, I didn't raise it with you before because I've forgotten about it. The comments made about Waitanui, that there were 4 people in favour of the water going down there and 1 against, but when I reread the submissions, which I've got with me here, I found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favour, one of them being the Ministry of Health, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 against. So I'm just wondering how those figures were arrived at.
I'm pretty sure those figures would have come at the time of writing. It's probably unfortunate that we put them in like that, and that was probably before the close of the submission period. So you have the submissions in front of you, they are the numbers, and so that is an error of what's in there because it was written before the last of the submissions.
Carry on.
Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, I took this up with Mr. Manhattan prior to Council in regards of the financial notes on 12/43. There's been a change from what we've been getting in regards of fees and charges and other revenue, and there's been, I believe, probably a correction in regards of some fees and charges being put into other revenue, and it relates to, I think, petrol tax and infringement and fines. So that was a change there. I'll just come back to my favourite, which is the coloured paper. I'm just about getting used to having my sunglasses off when I look at it. Just one thing, I am starting getting used to it, but can we have the presentation, Your Worship, the same each page each time, rather than the changes that we're seeing? So it makes it easier to follow on a month-by-month basis.
Yeah.
We will keep it consistent for the rest of the...
So for instance, that's page 1 of last month's, and this is page 1 of this month. So just the consistency of being able to...
Yeah, just on that through the Chair, we put the addition of a dashboard summary in there to try and give you a summary on the first page. Like in a lot of our business, we try to improve what we do on an ongoing basis, so that's the reason for that. But I think going forward from now, hopefully we've settled on something that you find useful.
It's 2 words, black, white.
You wanted the colour in there.
No.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Christowski.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of questions. 12/3 relates back to Waitanui water. We're saying that consultation with residents is continuing. Are we still consulting with the residents at this stage?
Not as we speak, but we will post your decision making. So, obviously the project hasn't been completed because you haven't made those decisions, and then post decision making there'll be a whole lot of discussion which needs to happen whichever way you go in your decision making.
Okay. And the last clarification for me is on 12/38 under the monthly Treasury Management Report, funding facilities. We have issued 175 million of floating rate notes. That's not actually our gross debt though, is it?
No, that's securities that backs up the debt. So you always have securities in addition to the actual physical debt. So that's just securities that sit there. So it's not the physical debt, no.
Gross debt is actually less than 175.
Correct, it's around 148 at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Question.
Councillor Hickling.
Page 12 by bar 12, just under dogs. Under the current issue, the last paragraph, will that strategy be an internal one, officer one, or will it be, will it come to the Fred committee or on the dangerous dogs? Scott?
So that strategy's more around the public information out there, so you may have seen some more input in the papers locally around dangerous dogs.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more of a subtle way of just communicating with the public about what their responsibilities are without being too hard in people's faces. Just of note also in that report, you may notice that we've got 99% of dogs registered. We've only got 40 dogs now in the district that aren't registered, which I think is our lowest historic rate ever. So in terms of the work the compliance guys are doing with the wider strategy about getting compliance, dog education, has been very successful.
Still didn't quite answer my question.
So no, it won't be. At this stage, we said we'd report back to the Fred committee around about October with some ideas about dealing with the strategies of dogs and compliance, and it's still our intention to bring it back.
That's what I'm...
But we're continuing with work internally and externally in the meantime.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Harvey.
On page 12 bar 11, I noticed at the bottom current issues is steady increase in notices to fix technicians due to building work being undertaken without a building consent. Is this old issues or is this people building operations without
So it's a mixture of old and new stuff that we're finding. It's not just in our district. So we had a Building Institute meeting on Friday in Rotorua, which is all of the region, and it's consistent across the country. What we've seen in other parts of the country is it's taking people so long to get a building consent that they're just going and doing the work without consent. We're still issuing building consents in about 8 days, one of the fastest in the country. But yeah, it's like everything, you're always chasing your tail a little bit with this stuff, and we'll look at some strategies around infringements and a bit of better action so that people are going through the right process to do it. Well, it's qualified builders doing the work.
A lot of the time they know all too well what they're doing.
So we had one guy the other day who did some work and pretty much said, hey, I had a quiet period for my team for a couple of weeks. I needed a farm building built on my farm, so I just went and did it. And it was behind a hill. I never thought anybody would notice. We just happened to be doing an inspection on the property next door and noticed it. So yeah, we'll continue to work on that stuff. But as we do more proactive work, I would expect to see more of those things coming to your attention as we pick up on them.
Ranges from complete houses being built without consent right through to people unknowingly doing a piece of work, saying a bit of plumbing and not knowing that consent, and innocently not knowing consent was needed. So that's just sort of your extremes.
It really does affect the sale too, doesn't it? So they're crazy doing it. So holds up a lot of sales, unconsented work. So that's the sort of education process of how to sell it though.
Yep.
Can't complete the sale because of that. All right. Okay. Well, thanks, Gareth, and thank you. You've been in the role a couple of weeks now, 3 weeks.
Month.
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for the information you've been sending through and all that sort of thing. No other queries?
Just one quick one for me. Just a sense check. We're still on track for an operating surplus for the end of the year. Mr. Menhina?
Yes. Sorry, if we take out the budgeted income in respect of the Waitanui, and you compare apples with apples, we'll be about 2 million ahead.
2 million ahead. Great. Thank you.
Mr. Green hasn't got the grey hair yet, but at some stage. All right, all with me. Okay, could we have a mover, please? I think a resolution on 12(2). Information be received. Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Seconded by Councillor Christosky. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.